What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Miles. I'm a 22-year-old full-time Amazon seller, and thank you so much for checking out my channel. The video you're about to see is actually a clip from one of the YouTube live streams we're doing pretty much daily at 8 p.m. Eastern with my friend Garrett, all at Amazon, who did about 120K revenue last month in his Amazon business, talking about how to get wholesale accounts for Amazon FBA. So make sure to subscribe, and let's get into that clip.
How to convince brands to give wholesale accounts. Yeah. So you're not going to get everyone, right? It's a numbers game. So if you call 100, and we're calling, right? We're not emailing, we're calling. That's
not
the
emailing,
first thing.
calling, showing you're a real person.
Exactly. Call, show personality, show you're someone on the other side of the phone. The metrics and the statistics behind calling wholesalers is about 1%, right? So you call 100, 10 of those, you will win the account. Out of those 10, you'll probably land 1 or 2 profitable accounts, maybe 3, depending on how good and how fluent you are on the phone. But that actual phone call consists of a lot of objection handling, overcoming objections, and dealing with their hesitancies, I guess you could say, right? A lot of times they're going to say, we don't want any more Amazon business owners, right? But no, they're going to say, we don't want any more Amazon sellers. The first thing you have to convince them is you're not an Amazon seller, right? Once you get it through their mind that you're an Amazon business owner, that you're a business, not just a seller, that's the first overcoming objection. That is the first thing you have to convince them of, right? Leave a like, yeah, I got a bee that's hanging out with me and I don't like it. That's the first challenge, right? Is convincing them that you have a real operation, you know what you're doing, and you can provide value. The second one is providing that value, right? And I always tell our students, the people we coach, etc., and I'm watching this bee. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. To provide value up front, right? Be prepared. Have a plan when you're making the phone call. Maybe even have a document. And I've with some of the really good ones that we've won, we've come at the conversation with a one pager, kind of outlining some things that we would do, some things that we would offer, kind of outlining maybe a product that we would like to improve. Just to provide that value up front, right? It's a lot harder for them to say no when you're offering value in between their no's, right? If they're telling you no, but then you counter, oh, but I'm looking at your product. Maybe this title we can make more detailed. We can include more keywords in those first 60 characters. Let's add another picture. Let's change that primary image to something more valuable. If you're offering these things and you're providing these things up front, we're talking about specifically reaching out to brands, not necessarily wholesalers. However, when you're providing this value up front to the brands, it's a lot harder for them to say no when you are giving so much free information, right? Just like on this Instagram, Miles and I always provide the free content. It breaks the barrier down, right? So that's what I would say, right? Convince them that you know what you're doing, provide the value up front, be prepared, and
call. Don't just email. I mean, I don't have much experience with wholesale. I have interviewed Garrett's business partner and brother Dylan in 2 different videos on my channel, which he has a beard. He's in like all out Amazon's typically in the title on the videos we post. But you guys can go check those out. And so,
yeah, full disclosure, I don't actually make the phone calls. Dylan does. He does all the phoning. He handles all the supply management, supplier relations. I don't. I simply know how the process works.
But regardless, yeah, and listening to Wholesale Made Easy, which is a really good podcast out there for anyone looking to get into wholesale and stuff. But I don't have a ton of experience with it, but I think it really just boils down to not just being like another Amazon seller trying to hit them up. Like they get calls like that all day. I'm sure, anyone can decide to be an Amazon seller and, have an account up and running within a week or so. But it's a lot different from their perspective if, say you're a brick and mortar store, it shows a lot higher level of commitment that you're going to probably want to work together long term. So obviously none of us probably are brick and mortar stores, but showing that, that you do this full time, that you have a warehouse, a team helping you and all that, that you don't want to just sell their products. You want to increase the sales, maybe mix in some PPC and stuff like that, I think is very, very valuable. And so on top of just what to do once you find brands, how exactly are you going about finding brands to reach out to?
Yeah, so we leverage 2 different methods, or 3, I guess. First one's coming up soon, right? In-person vendor shows. That's going to be the highest conversion and the most.
What are those? Just to, kind of explain that further.
Right. So a vendor show is essentially a gathering where brands, distributors, wholesalers purchase a stand, right? They set up their shop with all sorts of details and information.
Kind of like a convention, kind of for people to go to,
exactly.
grow that.
So it's a commingling of all sorts of brands, distributors, wholesalers that are looking to build relationships and are ultimately looking at and adding to our catalog and ultimately making some purchases and building those longer term relationships. So that's number one. That's going to be the highest success rate is in-person vendor shows, things of that nature, right? In person. Number two is going to be, we use Smart Scout, which is a macro filter, a macro function that allows us to, ASD, yeah, we'll be there. That allows us to filter and do searches on a brand level, not necessarily a product level. We're comparing brand to brand. So say, for example, we're filtering on a criteria of Amazon out of stock rate less than 60%, right? Wait, did I have that backwards? More than 60%. Out of stock rate, more than 60%. Yeah. Out of stock rate, 60%. We'll say average sale price, $25. We'll say average star rating, 4 stars. We create our criteria, and then we filter on brand. So it's going to take a cumulative of the brand, average everything out across all the products in that brand. And then that's what the metrics that we're using to search on brands. And ultimately, we get a list of whatever category we're looking in of those brands, and then we just go through and call them. But then we leverage those lists, right? We call the brands, but then we also spider web out, right? We're calling distributors and wholesalers and suppliers that carry that brand. So we're starting with the brand, right? That's ideal.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, we'll get to those questions later. I think let's keep it really zeroed in on this for the time being.
Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, so we start with the brand, right? That's ideal because that's the highest on the supply chain. We always talk about that. Less hands in the pot. We're looking to develop that relationship with the brand and purchase from the brand. If we don't get the brand and we still want those products, then we're going to start working the other mechanisms. We're going to call distributors with that brand. We're going to call wholesalers with that brand. We're going to call suppliers. And those are easy to find once you have the brand that you're looking to carry. And then that's how we do. We work our way down the list of all the different brands. Start with the brand, go to the brands, distributors, wholesalers, suppliers. Finally went outside, yeah, right. And see what we can get, right? So like we started with this whole conversation. You start with 100, you call 100, you'll likely win 10, and then out of those 10, 1 or 2 will be profitable, and then that's how it works. Rinse and repeat until you start to build your catalog. A replenishable catalog. That's also the key, right? We're stacking products. We're not expanding. We're stacking.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like the idea of wholesale and that it's replenishable in the way some of our OA items we do are replenishable. You can, theoretically, you're doing a whole lot more work than just for arbitrage. You might just go into a store, buy something online. So with wholesale, you're actually talking to the people, you're getting to know them, and then theoretically, if everything goes right, that will still be a profitable source 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line. And I think that stems to the reason of the scalability. A lot of the wholesale model, which I myself have not dabbled into a ton. But yeah, so you would say if someone's just looking to get into wholesale, what would be the route to go in terms of like action plan?
Just starting out, I would actually ditch everything I just said and reach out to liquidation companies, right? There's going to be a lot of right, because the biggest adjustment from OA to wholesale is spending more money, right? You have to wrap your mind around the fact that you're going to have to normalize dropping $5, $10, $15, $20,000 on a single purchase, right? So you're going to have to normalize that. You're going to have to get confidence with that concept. You're going to have to get familiar and be comfortable spending that amount of money, right? So I would almost start with liquidation companies, closeout companies that are getting rid of stock at a very significant discount. Not necessarily going to be replenishable, but it's going to be very discounted. So you can buy large quantities of that stock, sell through it, and start to get your hands and you get your feet wet and develop those relationships, and then just start calling, right? Start calling. That's all I can say.
And you get the phone numbers from typically going on the brand's website, I believe. But yeah, definitely if you're interested in more wholesale content, our friend Danny, who does wholesale pretty much exclusively, I have a few videos with him, as well as Garrett's brother Dylan. I have a couple videos, and typically they're just ones with like all out Amazon in the title, I'm pretty sure Garrett's in the thumbnail in 1 or 2 of them, even though Dylan's in the video. But definitely go check that out. Any other questions while we're here on the topic of wholesale? Liquidation Ohio. Wow, speaking of wholesale and liquidations, anyone going to ASD? Garrett will be at ASD.
Yeah, but So I would say if anyone's going to ASD, first of all, let us know so we can link up. But secondly, do your research. Be prepared. Don't just walk into the trade show blind and just start talking to random people. Go with a strategy. Go with a plan. Go with go on a mission, specifically looking for the exact companies that you want to build the relationships with, and go with a game plan and then implement that game plan.
Yeah, and ASD, there's tons of other trade shows too. Like there's tons of regional ones. Like you don't have to just be ASD, although that I assume is probably the biggest one like out there. But who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's regional ones that you might be able to check out in your area.
It doesn't have to be big ones. It could be just like Maz was saying. There's like topical specific ones where a bunch of like what is it called? Makeup like wholesalers and stuff. Like there's so many small scale. I don't even call it. I guess conventions. I guess you can call it whatever. Like whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of them in all parts of the country. Go to them. Get uncomfortable. Put yourself out there. Put your face in front of these distributors and just see what happens. Right.
That was the clip from the YouTube Live talking about how to get wholesale accounts from a six-figure a month wholesale and OA seller. My boy Garrett with All Out Amazon. Thank you so much for checking it out. Really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe below. And we're doing the YouTube Lives pretty much daily at 8 p.m. Eastern, so you can come in and hang out with us, ask your questions live and all that. If there's any specific topics you want to see covered in a video or a live stream, let me know as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe below. See you in the next one.